Hey guys, Daddy-O here from Dadventure TV. I wanted to do a reply to Clint Gibbs' recent video asking if 29ers are taking over the trail bike category, and also make the case for 27.5 trail bikes. So the reason I really wanted to make this is because, to me, the choices that we have right now in mountain biking are really awesome. We've got such an ability to pick the bike that fits us as the particular rider, the trails that we ride, and quite frankly, I rue the day that we're only given one option. So if 29ers did ever take over the trail category and we didn't have the options, quite frankly, I'd be pretty pissed off, and I don't know, I'd have to start letting the bike industry know it. I assume that the bike industry being an industry and being a for-profit industry, that the economics of the thing will eventually take over, and we'll see. I suspect there will be enough people buying both that both will survive. But I just want to talk about why I like 27.5 and what I think some of the benefits are of the 27.5 wheel size compared to the 29ers. So let me start by saying that I don't dislike 29ers. I have a hardtail 29er. I've ridden some of the new breed of full squish 29ers, both shorter travel, 120, 130 mil range, and this, a couple of the longer travel, 150, 160s. And I like them, and they are definitely much better than they have been in the past. But you know, there are still a lot of differences between a 29er and a 27.5, simply because the 29ers have gotten better than they were. Doesn't mean that they still do certain things as well as 27.5. So let me just talk about the 27.5 pluses. There is no debate that 29ers in tight, fast, twisty sections just can't carve them as well as 27.5s. Now, not all of these sections are always burned. You know, a lot of times you've got flats, and when you've really got to lean the bike and the turns are coming fast and there's not a lot of room in between, and you're going left, you're going right, the 27.5s can easily go through those sections faster than the 29ers. That's just a fact. That the fact that 29ers can do it better than they used to is great, but they still can't do it as well as 27.5 bikes can. The other thing is, for the normal average rider that isn't getting out there 5-6 times a week to ride, I think that a 27.5 is an easier bike to play around on and be more nimble. You can do it on the bigger bikes. It just requires, I think, more skill and more effort. I think for people like myself, weekend warriors, that maybe in the summertime I get out during the week a couple times, but I'm not out there all the time riding. I don't have the skill set to throw around a 29er as easily as I can throw around a 27.5, which means for me, if that's what I'm going for, which when I'm trail riding, that's primarily what I want to do, I find the 27.5s just to be more fun. The kind of 27.5s I like are bikes that can still smash and can still plow. So 150 mil, 160 mil, in that range, 27.5 trail bike to me is a really nice bike because it is still playful. It does carve the tight twisties really well, yet can still plow just down rocks and chunk and gnar if that's what that trail kind of demands. To me, they're a little bit more versatile and a little bit more fun, I think, for the average rider than the 29ers. Um, Everybody talks about 29ers and the rollover, the extra rollover. And yes, they do have extra rollover, but it also comes at a price. I think where the 29ers come in to their own is when you have long sustained downhills where those 29ers can really benefit from the ability to keep their speed. That's why the 29ers are really so cool, is where you've got fast speed downhills and a lot of gnar, and you can really keep it up. Those things are going to roll over that gnar and just plow through that stuff really well. But if you have a lot of trails that have shorter ups, shorter downs, you're constantly accelerating and decelerating a lot. You have sort of speed robbing rock gardens, roots, things like that, where your speed is not going to carry you through the whole thing. You're in the middle, going to have to start pedaling. For those sorts of things, then I think that the 27.5 is actually a better bike, because accelerating on a 27.5 wheel is easier than a 29er. The extra rotational mass that you have on the 29ers, definitely, to me, I feel the difference trying to pedal those at slow speed, or when I'm on the trails where it requires a lot of accelerating after being slowed down. So again, I think the difference between which wheel size is going to work better is going to depend on the kinds of trails that you ride. I either ride trails around DC, which actually are mostly kind of short ups and short downs, but without a lot of chunk. Most of the technical stuff around here are either some man-made rock gardens, which are kind of silly actually, or I appreciate them, but they're not particularly difficult, or roots. We got a lot of roots. That's really where our technical riding comes in around here. But the mountains around here, the Appalachians, we have a lot of, they're not super long descents. They do tend to be pretty rocky and pretty gnarly, with a lot of granite kinds of rocks along the way, shale sometimes. But a lot of them are also, you got to pedal up, and for pedaling up, you're oftentimes on these shorter ups and then shorter downs, and we just don't have a lot of what the West Coast trails are like, where you kind of have these slog it up for a long extended period of time, fire road or relatively non-technical climbs up, and then some really just long, fast downhills. Where you're descending a couple thousand feet in one run. That's just not what we have a lot of out in Western Maryland, Western PA, West Virginia, these types of areas. So for me, for that reason, I like the 27.5. I find, like I say, that you get a long travel 27.5, and it'll carve the twisties better. It'll be better at low speed, easier to accelerate, yet if you get into a situation where you just want to plow, you got that suspension there, 150, 160 mil suspension, that'll just eat it up and allows you to plow just as well, and still quite playful. You get your suspension set up right, those bikes, they can still pop and be a lot of fun. So, at any rate, those are my thoughts. Because of what I like and what I ride and how I ride. Oh, that's the last thing I'd say is, I think the other thing is what your riding style is. If you're more of I think you kind of maybe ride a lot of road, or you come from a road riding background, you may like the 29ers better. They, I think, probably have more appeal to that style of riding. If you come from a more BMX kind of background, you're used to kind of flicking your bike around, standing up, hammering the pedals, lifting it a lot, that sort of thing. then I think you may also find the 27.5s to be more enjoyable. So I think a lot of it too has to do with your background, your riding style, where you come from. So those are my thoughts. Right now, there's a lot of bikes out there. There's a lot of choice. I love, for example, the Santa Cruz line. I've got my Bronson. I love the fact that they've got the 27.5s from a shorter travel all the way up to the longer travel, and then they've done the same thing on the 29ers. I think that's a great way to go about it. It gives the consumer a lot of choice to figure out which bike really suits their riding style and their trails. I just hope that we don't ever get to a point where the industry is shoving something down our throats as the be-all, end-all of what we have to ride. So with that, I'll hear what everybody else has to say. I'm sure Clint's video has been good at sparking some good conversation on the subject. I still think that more important than just pure wheel size is actually the geometry of a bike. I think that that really, the geometry, the amount of travel, and the wheel sizes, all three of those things go in together to kind of what makes the bike right for you. I don't think you can really single out any one particular aspect there and say, well, this is it. This is what we need. So, at any rate, if you like this video or you found it interesting, give it a thumbs up. Feel free to subscribe. I hope to be getting some new trail videos soon, as soon as the weather gets better here. And see you out there.